I'd like to recall that defense and deterrence are the first logical steps or the first logical response to Moscow's aggressive stances, especially after what they did in Crimea and eastern Ukraine. Yet, it has been really strongly emphasized that this is not a step back to the Cold War. So we are maybe in a period of cold peace, but we are not in Cold War anymore. And even though NATO's first response were to cut practical cooperation with Russia, we still have a dialogue with the Russians through the NATO-Russia Council and at the level of ambassadors. Therefore, we cannot say that we have stopped discussing with Russia. It's maybe true that the Russian might be willing not to discuss with us, they might be willing to undercut and undermine the alliance, yet this is not what we think from a NATO standpoint. If I had to actually define some additional steps, rather than scenarios, I would suggest 4 points. The first one is to better understand Russia, Russian behavior, Russian attitude, and Russian tactics and techniques, because we have lost our knowledge with regards to Russia and what they do, how they operate, how they have a vision of power is something that we need to actually assess better. And we've actually done our homework by, for instance, setting a new intelligence division at NATO's HQ. So this actually is part of this. The second step is to maintain a kind of dialogue and tell Moscow very bluntly and very actually honestly that we know that we have different, we know that there are problems, yet we also know, and they know, that we have also criteria in common and we have problems and threats in common. Terrorism, radicalism, violent extremism, those are things that are of common interest that we should maybe be able to discuss. The third point would be something about going a bit further in NATO's addressing all the countries in this neighborhood, in the eastern part of Europe and maybe in the southern part also of the Caucasus, that we are open to dialogue, to discuss with them, to help them, yet we are not considering Moscow as a threat. Therefore, Moscow shouldn't take the initiative we conduct with regards to countries, for instance, in the Caucasus, as a response to their behaviors. They should consider that it is part of the cooperation between an alliance like NATO and countries that choose it with freedom. Finally, and that's maybe the most, in a way, could be considered as very aggressive, yet it's normal to make Russia accountant of its act and work closely with EU to maintain the sanctions vis-à-vis Russia, because we cannot actually accept that a country in the 21st century breaks the European security architecture and that was the case by seizing by force Crimea and maintaining a low conflict in Ukraine. Therefore, this flow of sanctions still need to be addressed.